Seniors who keep these 7 items die alone. This is a harsh reality check. At 73, Carolyn sat in her spotless living room, surrounded by pristine furniture that hadn't been touched in years, holding a phone that never rang. 3 months later, her neighbour found her. The coroner said she'd been gone for 2 weeks. What they discovered in her home revealed the shocking truth about why so many seniors end up completely isolated in their final years. If you're over 60 and recognise any of these 7 items in your own home, this video might just save you from the same fate. Because what I'm about to share isn't just about decluttering, it's about the hidden psychological barriers that push away everyone who tries to get close to you. I'm going to be brutally honest with you today because, well, someone needs to tell you the truth that your family and friends are just too polite to say. After studying hundreds of cases of senior isolation and speaking with geriatric psychologists, social workers and family members, a disturbing pattern emerged. It wasn't health issues, financial problems, or even personality that determined who ended up alone. It was 7 specific items these seniors refused to let go of. Meet Diane, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. 2 years ago, her daughter Jessica stopped visiting. Her son moved across the country. Her grandchildren barely knew her name. Today, Diane has transformed her life completely, and her family can't stay away. The difference? She finally let go of these 7 toxic items that were slowly poisoning every relationship she had. Before we dive in, I need you to be completely honest. Have you noticed family members visiting less often lately? Drop a comment and let me know, because recognizing the problem is the first step to fixing it. Number 1. The shrine of past glory. The first item that's killing your relationships is what I call the shrine of past glory. Those overwhelming displays of old achievements, awards and photographs that dominate every surface of your home. Diane's living room looked like a museum. Every wall was covered with her teaching awards from the 1980s, newspaper clippings of her students' achievements, and hundreds of photographs from decades past. When Jessica brought her teenage daughter over, the girl couldn't sit anywhere without hearing a 20-minute story about each picture. Here's the harsh reality. Your adult children and grandchildren don't want to live in a time capsule. They want to create new memories with you, not constantly relive your old ones. When every conversation becomes about back in my day, because you're surrounded by visual reminders of the past, you're sending a clear message that your best days are behind you. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a geriatric psychologist, explains it this way. When seniors create shrine-like environments, they're unconsciously communicating that they're no longer interested in growth or new experiences. Family members, especially younger ones, feel like visitors in a museum rather than participants in a living relationship. The solution isn't to throw away your memories, it's about curation. Choose 3 meaningful items per room maximum. Store the rest in photo albums or digital formats. Create space for new experiences and conversations. Have you noticed people seeming uncomfortable or restless in your home? Comment below, you might be surprised how common this is. When Diane packed away 80% of her memorabilia and created conversation areas focused on current interests, Jessica started bringing the grandkids over again. They could finally sit comfortably and talk about today, not just yesterday. So, the second relationship killer is what I call the fortress of outdated furniture. You know, those heavy, dark, uncomfortable pieces that make your home feel more like a tomb than a welcoming space. Let me tell you about Raymond, a 71-year-old widower from Texas. He just couldn't figure out why his 3 adult sons never wanted to spend holidays at his house anymore. They always suggested meeting at restaurants or, well, they'd invite him to their homes instead. The answer, honestly, was sitting right there in his living room, a massive sectional sofa from 1987, so worn and uncomfortable that nobody could sit on it for more than 10 minutes without getting backaches. But, you see, it wasn't just about the physical discomfort. That furniture told a story, the story of someone who'd stopped caring about making a welcoming environment for others. The coffee table was so heavy it couldn't be moved, which made game nights impossible. The dining room chairs, formal and stiff, discouraging any long conversations over meals. Here's what geriatric social worker Mike Chen discovered in his research. Seniors who maintain extremely outdated or uncomfortable furniture are often unconsciously pushing people away. They're prioritizing the preservation of objects over the comfort of relationships. Your furniture should invite connection, not prevent it. If people can't sit comfortably, play games easily, or just relax in your space, well, they'll find excuses to meet elsewhere. And once that pattern starts, it's incredibly difficult to break. But the transformation doesn't have to cost thousands. Raymond, for example, replaced his ancient sectional with a comfortable modern sofa and 2 recliners for under $1,200. He added a lightweight coffee table that could be moved for activities. And within a month, his sons were asking to host family game night at his house. So, look around your living space right now. When was the last time someone chose to sit and stay for more than an hour? Be honest in the comments. The message your furniture sends is crucial. This is a place where people matter, or this is a shrine to the past where comfort doesn't matter. Moving on, the third toxic item is what I call the Museum of Broken Dreams. All those hobby supplies, craft materials and project remnants from activities you no longer do but just can't seem to let go of. Let me introduce you to Gloria, a 75-year-old from Michigan. Her dining room table hadn't been used for eating in over 5 years. Instead, it was absolutely covered with scrapbooking supplies, half-finished quilts and craft projects that would never be completed. Her sewing room had turned into a maze of fabric bolts and pattern pieces. When her daughter Amy wanted to host family dinners, there was literally nowhere to sit and eat together. But the real damage wasn't just about physical space, it was psychological. Every time Gloria looked at those unfinished projects, she was reminded of her declining abilities and abandoned dreams. Worse still, when family visited, these items became conversation killers. Instead of talking about current interests or future plans, conversations just fizzled out in guilt and regret. Dr. Lisa Park, who specializes in senior transitions, explains, unfinished projects become emotional anchors that keep seniors stuck in a cycle of regret. Family members feel this heavy energy and unconsciously avoid spending time in these spaces. Here's the brutal truth. Holding on to supplies for hobbies you can no longer physically or mentally engage with isn't preserving your identity. It's broadcasting your limitations to everyone who enters your home. The solution really requires honest self-assessment. Ask yourself, have I used this in the past year? Am I physically capable of completing these projects? Am I keeping this out of hope or habit? Gloria made the difficult decision to donate 90% of her craft supplies to a local senior centre where they could actually be used. She kept just one small box of supplies for simple projects she could realistically complete. The transformation was immediate. Her dining room became a gathering place again. So, what unfinished projects are taking up space in your home right now? Comment below. Let's help each other face this honestly. Your home should reflect who you are today and your hopes for tomorrow, not who you used to be or what you can no longer do. Now, the fourth isolation trap is what I call the prison of plastic protection. You know, those plastic covers on furniture, protective films on electronics, and all those excessive preservation measures that basically scream, "Don't touch," to everyone who enters your home. Take Arthur, a 69-year-old retired mechanic from Florida. He had plastic covers on every piece of upholstered furniture in his house. His remote controls were wrapped in plastic bags. Even his lampshades had protective covers. When his granddaughter Sophia visited, she was constantly told not to touch things, not to put her feet up, not to eat in the living room. The message was clear. Preserving objects was more important than creating memories with people. Child psychologist Dr. Jennifer Walsh studied this phenomenon and said, children and grandchildren quickly learn that they're not welcome to be comfortable in these overprotected environments. They associate visits with stress and restriction rather than love and acceptance. But you see, the plastic prison isn't just about furniture. It's a mindset that prioritizes possessions over people. When you're more concerned about protecting a chair than creating a space where your grandson can comfortably watch a movie with you, you're choosing isolation. Here's the harsh reality. That furniture you're protecting so carefully, it's going to outlast you, but if you keep everyone at arm's length to preserve it, you'll die surrounded by perfect, unused items and no relationships. The psychological impact runs deeper than most realize. When seniors create these sterile, untouchable environments, they're unconsciously communicating several toxic messages. My things are more valuable than your comfort, I don't trust you to respect my home, and I'm more focused on preservation than connection. Arthur's breakthrough came when Sophia, then 8 years old, asked him, "Grandpa, why do you love your couch more than me?" That question, well, it shattered his perspective. He removed every plastic cover that weekend. So be brutally honest. Is there anything in your home that people can't touch or use comfortably? Share in the comments. The transformation was remarkable. Within weeks, family visits became longer and more frequent. His living room became a place of laughter and connection instead of anxiety and restriction. The fifth relationship destroyer is what we call the hoarder's gallery of guilt. Those rooms or areas filled with items you're keeping just in case or because you paid good money for them, creating overwhelming anxiety-inducing spaces. Bernice, a 72-year-old from Oregon, had turned her spare bedroom into what her son Michael called the room of no return. Boxes of unused kitchen gadgets, clothes from 3 decades ago, and furniture she couldn't bear to donate created a maze that made the room, well, completely unusable. When Michael's family visited, his children had nowhere to sleep except air mattresses in the living room. But you know, the real damage wasn't the physical inconvenience, it was the emotional burden. Every time Bernice looked at that room, she felt overwhelmed and, honestly, quite guilty. When family mentioned it, she became defensive and anxious. These conversations always ended in tension, gradually training her family to avoid the topic and eventually to avoid visits altogether. Hoarding behavior, even in mild forms, sends a clear message to family members. I value these random objects more than creating a welcoming space for you. It also reveals an unhealthy attachment to possessions that often indicates deeper emotional issues around control, fear, and identity. Dr. Amanda Foster, who works with seniors on downsizing, explains, when seniors can't let go of unused items, they're often trying to maintain control in a life where they feel increasingly powerless. But this creates the opposite effect. The clutter controls them and drives away the relationships they need most. The just-in-case mentality becomes particularly toxic in senior years because the likelihood of actually needing these items decreases while the burden of maintaining them increases. Meanwhile, family members feel guilty about mentioning the problem but frustrated about its impact on their visits and relationship. Bernice's transformation began when Michael gently explained that his kids associated her house with stress and couldn't relax there. She realized she was sacrificing precious time with her grandchildren to preserve items she hadn't touched in years. How many rooms in your home can't be used for their intended purpose because of stored items? Count them and comment below. The breakthrough came when Bernice adopted the 1-year rule. Anything she hadn't used in a year had to go. She transformed that spare bedroom into a welcoming guest space, and suddenly, family visits became weekend stays instead of brief afternoon stops. The sixth toxic item is the shrine of departed souls, those overwhelming displays of deceased family members that, well, turn your home into a memorial instead of a living space for current relationships. Walter, a 76-year-old widower from New York, had transformed his home into a shrine for his late wife Margaret. Her clothes still filled the closet, her medications remained on the nightstand, and every surface displayed her photographs. When his daughter Karen brought her new boyfriend to meet Walter, the young man later told Karen he felt like he was intruding on a tomb, not visiting a potential grandfather-in-law. Grief is natural and healthy, but when memorial displays overwhelm your living space, they create an uncomfortable atmosphere for the living people trying to connect with you. Visitors feel like they're competing with ghosts for your attention and affection. Grief counsellor Dr. Maria Santos explains, when seniors create shrine-like environments for deceased loved ones, they're often unconsciously signalling that their emotional investment remains with the dead rather than the living. Family members pick up on this energy and feel excluded from the senior's emotional world. The harsh truth is that excessive memorialization can become a form of emotional unavailability. When every conversation leads back to stories about the deceased, when every room is dominated by their presence, living family members begin to feel like they can never measure up to the memories you're preserving. This doesn't mean forgetting or dishonoring those you've lost. It means creating appropriate boundaries that allow space for new relationships and experiences. Your departed loved ones would want you to continue living and loving, not to turn your home into a museum that pushes away the people who care about you now. Walter's breakthrough came when Karen courageously told him, "Dad, I feel like Mom is more present in your life than I am, and she's been gone for 3 years." He realized his grief had become a barrier to connecting with his living daughter and her growing family. Have family members seemed uncomfortable or made comments about memorial displays in your home? Share honestly in the comments. The transformation required careful balance. Walter kept one meaningful memorial area in his bedroom, but removed the overwhelming displays from common areas. He packed away Margaret's clothes and medications, keeping only a few special items. The change was dramatic. His home became a place where living people could feel welcome and important again. The seventh and most toxic item is the arsenal of ancient grudges. Those visible reminders of past conflicts, betrayals and disappointments that you display or reference constantly, poisoning current relationships with old resentments. Pauline, a 74-year-old from California, had turned her coffee table into a display of evidence from family disputes, old letters, legal documents and photographs that proved various family members had wronged her over the years. Every visit became a relitigation of decades-old conflicts. Her son David eventually stopped bringing his children because he didn't want them exposed to the constant negativity and blame. But the arsenal isn't always physical. Sometimes it's the emotional weapons you keep sharp and ready. The stories you tell repeatedly about who hurt you, the grudges you nurse like precious pets, and the scorekeeping that turns every interaction into a transaction based on past grievances. Family therapist Dr. Robert Kim has observed this pattern for decades. Seniors who maintain arsenals of grievances create toxic environments where family members feel they can never do enough to compensate for past mistakes. Mistakes that may have happened decades ago, or may not even be accurately remembered. Here's the brutal reality. Every minute you spend reliving old hurts is a minute stolen from building new joy. Every conversation you redirect toward past grievances is an opportunity for connection that dies before it can bloom. Your arsenal of ancient grudges isn't protecting you, it's guaranteeing your isolation. The most insidious aspect of grudge-keeping is how it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. When you constantly remind people of their past failures, they stop trying to succeed with you. When you treat every gesture of love as insufficient compensation for old wounds, people stop making gestures altogether. Pauline's transformation began when David made one final attempt. "Mum, I can't change the past, but I'm trying to build a future with you. Every time I visit, you remind me why I'm not good enough. My kids are learning that family means criticism and disappointment. Is that really what you want your legacy to be? What old grievances are you still carrying that might be affecting your current relationships?" Be brave and comment below. The breakthrough required Pauline to physically remove all visible reminders of past conflicts and make a conscious choice to focus on present opportunities instead of past disappointments. She discovered that forgiveness isn't about excusing others. It's about freeing yourself to experience joy again. Six months after Diane made these 7 crucial changes, her life was honestly unrecognizable. The woman who once sat alone in her shrine-like living room now hosts weekly family dinners. Her home has become the gathering place her children actually fight over for holidays. But the most powerful transformation wasn't in her house, it was in her relationships. Jessica, who had distanced herself for years, now calls 3 times a week. The grandchildren beg to spend weekends at Grandma's house. Even old friends have started reaching out again, drawn by the warmth and welcome they now feel in Diane's presence. I thought I was preserving my dignity by holding on to all those things, Diane reflects. But I was actually building walls that kept out the people I loved most. The hardest part wasn't letting go of the objects. It was admitting that my need to be right was more important to me than my need to be loved. The transformation proves a crucial truth. Loneliness isn't inevitable in your senior years. It's often the direct result of choices you're making right now about what you prioritize and what you're willing to release. If you recognize yourself or your home in any of these 7 toxic items, you have a choice to make right now. You can continue down the path toward isolation, or you can start making changes today. The people who love you are waiting. They just need to see that you value them more than you value being right, more than you value your possessions, and more than you value your grievances. Which of these 7 items hit closest to home for you? Comment below and let's support each other in making these life-changing transformations. Hit that like button if this opened your eyes, and share it with a senior who needs to hear this truth. Your next chapter doesn't have to be written in loneliness. Subscribe for more life-changing content about thriving in your golden years.